Hear now this. We were first right here to report on this newscast that U.S. agents, likely working for the CIA, had broken into an embassy in Spain. The embassy belonged to North Korea, and it's reported at the very least an embarrassing screw-up for the U.S. intelligence officials. It happened just before the meeting between President Trump and Chairman Kim. Well, tonight, we know more about this. Watch this report filed by our own Michele Greenstein.
Last month, masked men broke into the North Korean embassy in Spain. They bound and gagged the staff, put bags over their heads, interrogated them, and drove off with cell phones and computer hardware. North Korea published its first official comment on this incident yesterday, calling for an investigation. So who was responsible? Spanish press, quoting Spanish authorities, linked this raid to the CIA. But the Washington Post, quoting anonymous sources familiar with the planning and execution of the mission, say that a group named Cheollima Civil Defense was responsible and acted alone. So which was it? The CIA or this Cheollima group? Well, it turns out these entities may not be entirely mutually exclusive. Not a lot is known about the Cheollima Civil Defense, but it has worked in coordination with the U.S. government before. Not only is this group clearly aimed at regime change, it's declared itself the sole legitimate representative of the North Korean people. Here's a video it released after the raid. It's titled "On Our Homeland Soil," probably because embassy grounds are considered the grounds of the country they represent. It shows a man with his face hidden smashing pictures of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. Now, on Tuesday, a Spanish judge lifted the seal of the case and identified this man, Adrian Hong, as the leader of this raid. Hong is based in the U.S., and earlier reports from Spain associate him with the CIA. Hong has also written a number of op-eds in major U.S. publications, all calling for regime change in North Korea. According to a Spanish court, Adrian Hong flew to the U.S. after the break-in, contacted the FBI, and offered to share the material obtained during the embassy attack with these federal investigators. And what does the U.S. have to say about all this? Here's Deputy State Department spokesperson Robert Palladino.
The United States government had nothing to do with this.
In Washington, Michele Greenstein, RT.
And lo and behold, Michele joins us now in Washington as well, but sitting across from us to be able to take us through this. Okay, I want to focus our conversation on this guy, Hong. I think the fascinating thing about this is that a guy working with the United States, who apparently is a prominent person in the United States, is now being suspected by the authorities in Spain of breaking into an embassy.
Right.
Last time I checked, that's a crime.
Absolutely, and Spain wants him to be extradited so that he can be prosecuted as such. So he literally led a raid onto North Korean territory, and according to Spanish officials, like you said, he traveled to the U.S. right after and offered the FBI the information that he obtained during this attack. What
was his role, allegedly, of course, inside that embassy when he got in? Did he do something to the employees?
So allegedly, he was the leader. He led the interrogation of the embassy staff. According to one report, he actually took one diplomat into a room by himself and interrogated him alone. This is the former ambassador from North Korea to Spain, who now is the point man for nuclear negotiations with the U.S., which is why a lot of people are saying that the timing of this attack can't be, left out of the picture. This was 2 days right before the quote-unquote failed Hanoi summit, or the sabotage Hanoi summit, depending on which account you'd like to believe.
So this is crazy, and I keep coming back to the basics because the basics of this story are fabulously rich.
Right.
The idea that someone who may have been working with the United States government, possibly with the CIA, broke into an embassy in Madrid, Spain.
This isn't a nobody. This is a person who's very much entrenched within the inner policy circles of Washington, D.C. He's a fellow at Yale. He's a former member of Freedom House, which, as you know, takes a significant amount of money from the State Department. He's a member of the Hudson Institute, which is this militaristic, neoconservative think tank with ties to defense contractors. So a lot of Washington ties here that really cannot be ignored.
And why would he do this? What was the goal of either this person or whoever it was who was breaking into this North Korean embassy in Madrid.
So Spanish authorities think that the sole purpose of this raid was to get information on Kim Hyok-chol, who, like I said, used to be the ambassador to Spain from North Korea and now is in charge of nuclear negotiations with the U.S. And we actually know a bit about the other assailants, but no one is as known as this leader, quote unquote. There's another U.S. citizen that we know of that was involved and another South Korean citizen, but they are not as well known.
Let's postulate the story a different way. Let us suppose that someone had come to the United States representing the Russians.
Right.
Or, I don't know, the Chinese, the French, whoever, right?
Yeah.
And that person was alleged by the CIA to have broken into an embassy in Washington, D.C. and held workers there captive.
It would be a major scandal. It absolutely would. If the tables were turned, I think, we would have huge press conferences declaring that this is, a violation of international law. So it's interesting. That's a good point. We do need to think about what would happen if the tables were turned. And what's very interesting also is that the Washington Post, which, has plenty of ties to the CIA, which is a story for another time, quoting anonymous sources familiar with the operation, of course, and quoting a former CIA analyst, kind of issued this ominous warning that we're going to be seeing more from this group, from this Cheollima Civil Defense group, that in the next coming months, we will see the extent of their capabilities. So they're denying that the CIA had any involvement, and the CIA is denying involvement, but they're quoting these anonymous sources to say, oh, let's see what this group continues to do.
And somebody is putting up millions of dollars for this guy's defense, even though they have no money. I'll tell you this. This guy should be turned over to the Spanish if they say they have grounds for his arrest. He should be arrested. Point fact, that's the way things should work, right?
Of course.
Michele, good job. Thank you. Stay on this story.
Oh, absolutely. I think
fascinating.
It's wild, for sure.
I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV. I'll see you there.